The real story of the American Revolution, let's start. When we hear the words American Revolution, most of us imagine brave patriots, George Washington on horseback, and fireworks celebrating freedom. But the real story is far more complex. It's not just a tale of heroic battles. It's a story of economic pressures, political power, betrayal, divided loyalties, and global consequences. In this video, we uncover the real story of the American Revolution, the untold truths, the hidden struggles, and the global impact of a war that changed the course of history. Colonial discontent, the boiling point. By the mid-1700s, the 13 American colonies were thriving under British rule. They had their own governments, strong economies, and growing populations. But underneath the surface, tension was building. Why? Because after the French and Indian War ended in 1763, Britain was drowning in debt. The empire turned to the colonies to help pay for the war. Suddenly, new taxes were introduced. The Stamp Act, the 1765, tax on printed materials. The Sugar Act, 1764, tax on sugar and molasses. The Townshend Acts, 1767, taxes on glass, paper, and tea. To the British, it was fair. The colonies should pay their share. But to many colonists, it was tyranny. They had no representation in Parliament, yet they were being taxed. This sparked the powerful phrase, "No taxation without representation." Protests turned to rebellion. Colonial resistance began to grow. Merchants refused to import British goods. Activist groups like the Sons of Liberty emerged. Pamphlets, speeches, and newspapers fanned the flames of rebellion. In 1770, tensions exploded in the Boston Massacre, where British soldiers killed 5 colonists during a chaotic confrontation. Then came the Boston Tea Party, 1773, where colonists, dressed as Native Americans, dumped an entire shipment of British tea into the harbor. It was a bold, defiant message: we will not be ruled. Britain responded with harsh laws, the Intolerable Acts, meant to punish Massachusetts, but instead they united the colonies in outrage, the move toward independence. In 1774, the colonies held the First Continental Congress, a meeting of delegates to discuss a collective response. They weren't ready to break away, not yet. But by 1775, war had already begun. The battles of Lexington and Concord became the first shots of the American Revolution. The shot heard round the world. By 1776, the idea of full independence had taken hold. On July 4, 1776, the Declaration of Independence, written primarily by Thomas Jefferson, was adopted by the Continental Congress. It was more than a political document. It was a philosophical statement. All men are created equal, with unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But here's the reality. Those words didn't apply to everyone. Enslaved people, women, Native Americans, they were left out of this new vision. A war of survival, 1775 to 1783. The war wasn't just colonies versus Britain. It was a global conflict. Britain had the largest navy in the world. The Americans had local militias and few supplies. Many colonists remained loyal to the British crown. Native American tribes were divided. Some supported Britain to protect their land. So how did the underdog win? The answer: strategy, alliances, and sheer determination. George Washington, appointed commander-in-chief, kept the army alive through brutal winters, especially at Valley Forge. The Battle of Saratoga in 1777 was a turning point. It convinced France to formally join the war on the American side. Later, Spain and the Netherlands also entered the conflict. With French military support, the Americans surrounded British General Cornwallis at Yorktown in 1781. He surrendered, effectively ending the war. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed. Britain officially recognized the United States of America. The costs of revolution. Victory came at a high price. Tens of thousands died in battle or from disease. Cities were burned, economies were shattered. Enslaved people were promised freedom by both sides, but most remained in chains. Native Americans lost more land as settlers expanded westward. Women played critical roles in support, but still had no political voice. The revolution wasn't clean or fair. It was messy, bloody, and full of contradictions. But it planted the seeds for future change. Building a new nation. The war was over, but how would this new country govern itself? At first, the United States operated under the Articles of Confederation, a weak system with little federal power. It didn't work, so in 1787 the U.S. Constitution was created, a new foundation of government with checks and balances and protections for basic rights. It was a revolutionary idea that power came from the people, not a king. But even then, the Constitution was imperfect. It allowed slavery. It excluded women. It left many questions unanswered, questions the U.S. would wrestle with for centuries. Global impact of the revolution. The American Revolution wasn't just a local uprising. It inspired the world. In France, it fueled the French Revolution. In Latin America, it inspired leaders like Simón Bolívar. Across Europe, people began to question monarchies and demand rights. The United States became a symbol, not just of freedom, but of the power of people to change their government. So, what's the real story of the American Revolution? It's not just about redcoats and patriots or tea parties and declarations. It's about people, divided, passionate, struggling, trying to define what freedom really means. It was a revolution of ideas just as much as bullets. And like all revolutions, it was imperfect, but it lit a spark that still burns today. If you found this video insightful, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Let's keep history honest and alive.